All right, we're going to continue with percentile ranking. And remember, uh, percentile has its root, right? Same as percent or percentage, right? So it has something to do with it. It is connected. We've got some alternate notations. You might have P60, which is 60th percentile, okay? So when we only talking percentile, you're supposed to round to the nearest whole number. So 60 could be 61st, 62nd, right? 51st, 31st, 32nd, 33rd, so forth, right? So it ranks you essentially. It ranks you from, right? The lowest can be 1 when it comes to ranking, and the highest is 99, okay? Because it indicates the percentage of, it could be people, right? Or any data for that instance that is below you. So you cannot have 100 percentile, because that would mean that all of the data is below you, but that cannot be because you're part of the data. You're part of those points, so it cannot be 100, okay? That's by definition. So the higher your percentile, the more values will be below you, okay? So, and that always depends on your data set to begin with. So it depends on the class sometimes when we're looking at scores. It depends on how people scored in it. It doesn't matter how high or low you scored. You could have scored really well, like let's say you score 90% on a test, but you could still be located further down in the percentile because there could have been a lot of students that scored more than 90, right, on it. So it just tells you where you stand with respect to the rest. Remember that. So percentile does not tell you the actual score or your actual height or how many goals you actually scored. No, it does not. It just tells you how you would be compared to the rest. And sometimes the question gives you a lot of information. Other times they just give you the percentile, in which case all you can say is, hey, we know how you compare to the rest. Okay? So then we talked about, I know I'm reviewing a little bit. We had this, it's kind of like earlier I had percentiles stacked like this. You can also go in a horizontal bar like this. So 0 hours would be the here the lowest, and 9 hours would put you at the highest, which would be the 99th percentile in this case, right? And in this case, you actually know hours, the actual value itself, but you also know how that would rank you compared to the rest. So if you have 3 hours of sleep, that would put you in the 40th percentile in this case. So that means that 40% of people would be getting less sleep than you, which is in this case 3 hours, right? If you sleep 5 hours, that puts you in the 75th percentile, which means that 75% of students would be sleeping less than you. And in this case, you, right, would be 5 hours. And so keep that in mind. The median is our 50th percentile, because if you're in the 50th, right, that means that 50% are below you, and we are assuming also 50% are going to be getting more sleep than you, okay? So let's do some calculations using that formula that you would have been getting right at the beginning. I'm talking about this one right here. If you need to calculate it, this is where you get it. Okay, so the players on a senior boys volleyball team have the following heights. So you've got a bunch of heights. Let's see if it's arranged, 65, 75, 54. So it's not arranged, okay? Not arranged. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Okay, I'm just making that observation. All right, sorry if I'm cutting in and out. I have a runny nose. I'm not feeling that well, so I have to pause and recover every once in a while. But here we go. We have our different heights. It's not arranged, just making that observation. Everything is in centimeters. And stop. Let's pause here. Could you find the mean, median, and mode of this data? Absolutely, you could. But right now, we're not concerned with that. We're looking at how does a certain value compare to the rest? Okay, that's where we're at right now. So calculate the percentile rank of the players with the following heights. Then explain what your answer represents. Okay, so we're going to do that. So using PR, right, we need to find the values that are below over the total number of values times 100. Okay, so let's we can go underneath here. B, we're going to figure out that, and N, we're going to figure out that, and then do our work here. So N, let's figure out how many there are. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, right? There are 12 values, 12 players. Okay. And how many are lower than this one? This is like your actual score, so to speak, actual height, the one that we're interested in. Everything revolves around this value right now. How does height of 172 compared to the rest? And it could have been that, you know, they could have said George measures 172 centimeters. In this case, it's just what would a height of 172 compared to the rest? So you need to find out how many values are less than 172. So let's count. I'm going to circle. No, it's going to bite me because I have another example here. So let's just put a little dot like 1. This one is greater, right? 2. This one is less. 3. Greater, greater, greater. Less, right? 4. 5. Exactly the same, doesn't count, right? So 5, 6. 6 heights. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 6 heights are below. So 6 players are shorter than 172 centimeters. You're basically saying are below the value you're looking for. Okay, one is within the context, one is just saying, just plain looking at the numbers. So now we can calculate this. Percentile rank is 6 divided by 12 times 100. And we all know that 6 divided by 12 is 0.5 times 100. You can do this in one shot. 6 divided by 12 times 100 if you want. But this is actually exactly the 50th percentile. That is your median, right? I could ask you, hey, what else do we call this? It's a median, right? All right. What does this mean now? That number, the percentile. It tells us that 50% of the players are shorter than what? It could be a name associated with that height. In this case, we don't know, right? We just say shorter than 172 centimeters. That's what that is telling. That's what we just found out. Let's do the same thing for 190. How about you try that? You pause, you try doing the exact same thing we just did. Pause now and then try it. All right, so I'm just going to figure out B and N. And in this case, we're talking about the same 12 players total, right? That's your total. And how many are shorter than 190? Right, there's going to be a lot more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, don't count it. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right? 11 players. Just the 190 isn't, basically, right? So 11 players are shorter than 190 centimeters, right? That's what we're saying. Within this context, you could also just say that 11 values are less than the one you're looking at. Okay, same thing. So PR, percentile rank, you go 11 over 12 times 100. And I will show you, right, when it's multiplying and dividing, It's just like vehicle finance, anything, right? You divide and then you multiply by the number, or you can multiply 11 by 100, then divide. It's up to you. Times 100. So watch this. This gives you 91.66. That keeps going. You have to say, I always like to round up because you're ranking. You are in a specific place. So you can either go 91, 91st, or 92nd percentile. Okay. So that's the answer. What does that mean? The percentile? It tells us that 92%, I'm going to go with the 92nd, 92% of players are shorter than 190 centimeters. There could have been a name associated with it. Could have been, Biff. And there you go. That's how you find. Yeah. Could there be a player in the 100th percentile? Explain. And here's what I was alluding to earlier. Sorry about that. It's not possible. Not possible, comma, since that would indicate that all players would be shorter than a particular player, because when we're comparing, we're taking from the existing values, right? So no, it wouldn't be possible. You can't, in other words, right? You can't have 100% of players be shorter than you, comma, because you are part of the team, right? Or the data in this case. Your height is part of that data set. So remember, when we count B, we cannot include the one there. So even if you're the tallest player, right? We cannot include your height when we count. We should never have 12, right? Because then it would be you're counting the actual height itself, okay? And so therefore, not possible. Can only have 1 to 99, okay? Next. Here we go. Tom, this is where we differentiate the difference between percentile and score on your test. Okay, this is where you need to understand what's happening. Okay, so Thomas scored 29.5%, 29.5 out of 40, sorry, on his test. He knows that out of a class of 35 students, he scored higher than 18 students. Okay, he scored higher than 18 students. So state Thomas's score on his test as a percentage. And this one is a classic, right? You basically just go score divided by total. That's what I do every time when I mark your tests or quizzes. And I put that on the top corner. Oops, I went times, I meant divide, times 100. So that'll be 73.75% and or rounded, right? Which is approximately 74% in this case. That's what I would put on your paper. Okay, round it up. So that's the test on your test score. But you cannot say that, hey, therefore 74% of students scored less than you, not even close. It could have been that every single student in that class got the exact same percentage, right? So this is not telling you how you compare to the rest. It's just telling you that out of 100% of content in that test, you got 74% of it right, okay? What percentile does Thomas's test place him compared to the class? So here, they want you to do percentile ranking, okay? That's just percentile, really. Ranking, then it's percentage. So percentile, we go, okay, how many values are there in total? How many students in total? 35, okay? And the way it's worded, it's a little tricky. So he scored higher than 18 students. Scored higher than 18 students. This is telling you, right, i.e., 18 students scored less than Thomas. They were, and if you want to be specific, scored less than 74%. Sorry about that. Scored less than 74%. So we can actually use the 18 here. This 18, right, scored less. So we can put the 18 here, go times 100, and it's 18 divided by 35 times 100. Look what I get. I get 51.42, and it keeps going, but you don't want that. I always round up because you're technically not 51st. You're whatever is next, whatever comes after the 51st, right? You're slightly higher than that. So 52nd, that's the percentile. You don't have to write percentile. If you just go 52nd, you're fine. If you put down a percentage after that, then you'd be wrong. Okay, so you gotta watch out for that. And so always round, whole number. Okay, no percent symbol. Okay, that's key there. Unless he asks you to explain what that means, that's when you start putting percentages in. So what is this telling us? We know that in this case we have quite a bit of information. We know that 52% of the class scored below, in this case we actually know 74%. Because we know that 74% is Thomas's score. So if we didn't know this, if all we knew was that how many students were below his score, then we would just say 52% of the class scored below Thomas. Which you could have also done here, to be honest, to be fair. That would have been fine. I'm going to just put this in a cloud here because this is an aside, right? So this is where they just give you the information. You don't even have to fish for it. But we also differentiated between the actual test score and the percentile, okay? So I don't know if you want to do the percentile gave us this information, and the actual test score we were able to associate with Thomas, right? So you know 52 did below. We don't know how many did scored exactly as much as him, all that, but there we go. Let's do another one. If you feel you're quite confident, you can already pause here, just go ahead and try to work through it, kind of like already as an exercise, and then just wait or watch it later and wait for me to correct it, okay? Using the following information about the class of chemistry test results, determine the percentile rank for the students who achieved 72. Is the score considered, right? That's the one we're considering, okay? So to find B, right, and N, for N is easy, right? Just go 2, 4, 6, 8, 8 this way, 4 this way, so that's 32. 32 tests, right, or students that wrote the test. How many did scored less than 72? Is this arranged? Let me see. Yeah, it's arranged. It's going slowly higher, right? So this one is actually going to be easier. Yeah, once you get to here, that's when you stop, right? Because once you get to 72, you're no longer below. You just want the values below. So 4 times 4, that's 16, plus 2 is 18. Below what? Below 72. We're assuming it's 72%, right? So percent of rank be 18 over 32 times 100. That's 56.25. So we would round up to 57th. That's the percentile. And so we know that in this case we also have a lot of information of the individual scores actually, right? So we were able to figure out B by just counting. Okay, how about we do that? Oops. Right, all of these values. Now I have to do this, right? All of these values were below 72, right? The total was 32. So we know that 57% of the class scored less than 72%. And so that's basically what we just found out. All right, keep going. Khadisha recently ran in a marathon with 350 competitors, including herself. So she's part of the 350. 313 people finished slower than her. What is her percentile rank? So here we go. Fairly simple. We go 313, finish slower out of 350 times 100. We don't know her actual time. So that's, you write down 89.42, keep going, and resist the urge of putting down a percentage at this point. You will just go 90th, right? So you'd say, we don't know her time, but compared to the rest, she did pretty good because 90% of, right, 90% of competitors were slower than Khadisha, right? 90%. We don't know her actual time, but we just know that whatever time she got compared to the rest was pretty good. Okay. She would be, if you had your scale here, right? This would be your 50th. I like to quarter this, right? 25th, 75th. So 90th is somewhere in here, right? That would be the 90th there, somewhere there. And so doing pretty good because most were below, most runners were slower. Quite a few, the majority, right? Let's keep going. Yeah, you should at this point definitely try it on your own. Just pause me here and just keep going. So this would go from 57 to 58. When we get to the trickier questions, you can still try it. I will probably get to that point as well. But for sure, make it all the way to 58, okay? That's basically your task. And so pause me right now and then just wait or kind of fast forward to check if you're doing things right. Is there anything else I want to mention in this booklet? Percentile backwards, I'll get to that. What you could do is go to 63, 64, and that's where you start looking at charts for percentile rank. So how does this work? Go to 63 real quick here for a minute. Maybe I'll do one on 63 here. involving one of these tables, and then that'll be it. So an outdoor sporting good store at Fort McMurray, Alberta, sells gloves of different sizes. The table below indicates the number of pairs of each size sold in the past month. Size, right, and the number of pairs sold. Could be a weighted mean situation here, but no, we're in percentile. Jeanette bought herself a size 7.5 gloves. What is the percentile rank for her hand size? So 7.5, that's the actual size we're considering. Everything revolves around this, and we're trying to rank this size. So if you want to see, okay, like if a size is 7.5 here, if this is the one we're considering, and notice that the sizes are going up, right? So these would be sizes obviously that are bigger. We want to figure out, we want to focus on how many pairs were sold on, like, that are less than the size we're considering. So it's actually, your B will come out of this. So it's the same thing as just organizing a table. Okay, so percentile rank, we would simply go, right, the 10 plus 25 over, we need a total here. And so let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to have that here, total on the side. So we have 35 plus 57 plus 32 plus 29, right, 21 and 8, that's 153. Right, that's our total, that's our N. So you just go over here, put the 153 there, and all of this will be multiplied by 100 eventually. So this gives us 35 over 153 times 100. It's okay to do the train on this one, because everything is really the same. Divided by 153 times 100. That gives you 22.87 and so forth. Just put arrow, not equals, right? That's the 23rd percentile. So 23% of gloves were smaller, had a smaller size than 7.5. Okay. Jeanette bought her son's size 9 gloves. What is the percentile rank for his son's hand size? So we do this again, percentile rank. You can borrow the 153 because that stays the same. Size 9 is right here. Okay, so technically, I will highlight this in pink here. And maybe I'll do orange just underneath, right? These numbers, all of these numbers are less than size 9. So you have a choice here. Do you want to add up all of these? Or do you just want to go 153 minus 8, and that gives you the same, right? So we're going to go 153 minus 8, and that gives us 145 over 153. So if you add up all these values here, you get 145. Oh, my bad. Let's do this right. Times 100, which is 145 over 153 times 100. Which is, let's figure that out, times 100, that's 94.77, that keeps going, which is 95th percentile. So you could easily conclude, right, that without even knowing the glove size, right, that Jeanette has bigger hands, right? Explain. Oh, there it is again. Why percentile rank can never be 100 or greater. There it is. What would be the mode in this case, guys? What would be the mode? Most popular size. And hey, that's why I have my highlighters here. Mode would be found by just looking at the most popular size. So in this case, you look at which one has been sold the most, and it's right there, 57, right? 57 is the one that has been the size that has been sold the most, sold 57 pairs. So 7.5 is your mode here, right? 7.5 is the mode, right? Sold 57 of them. Because if you were to collect your information, could also be a weighted mean, right? I could have made this a weighted mean question, right? If you collected all your sizes, right, you would have 10 6.5 sold, right? 25 size 7s sold, 57 size 7.5 sold, right? So you have 7.5 would show up 57 times in your data. So that's how we know that that's our mode, okay? So it's a good overlap here. So actually try everything to 65 here as well, 63 to 65, and also make sure, because that's with charts, and then everything to 59, so 55 to 59 basically should all be done as well, okay? Actually, trickier questions omit, just to go to 58. Sorry about the back and forth, but I think you get the gist of it. So 55 to 58, all done. And then 63 to 65. Okay, I'm going to write that down here. 63 to 65. Can't forget that. So let's go here on page 56, and I'll just go page 55 to 58 and pages 63 to 65. Make sure you take care of these pages. Okay, I'll post a key to that. Thank you.